So today, our webinar will include a brief overview of the Locally Grown Guide and some new content in our 2021 publication, including our first annual Locally Grown Bingo game. Then we'll introduce you to 3 business owners that operate retail stores featuring local food. We'll talk about how to source local year-round by shopping at these retail stores, what you can expect these locations to offer, and what tasty local flavors they specialize in. Finally, we'll have some time at the end for a question and answer session with our panelists. I just want to take a moment and thank our panelists for participating today. Each of these entrepreneurs are operating a retail location that is open right now, so they may have to jump off video to help a customer or staff member. Panelists and attendees, please just stay muted during the presentation. And just a reminder, especially for our panelists, do not feel obligated to remain on video when you aren't speaking. So come on, there we go. The Local Food Alliance, a program of the Sun Valley Institute for Resilience, has been uplifting our local food shed since 2014. For many years, we dreamed of publishing a locally grown guide in addition to our online version. In 2020, we published our first annual locally grown guide, inviting locals and visitors to experience the flavors of our region by providing information on regional farmers and ranchers, food artisans, restaurants and retail stores, community events and resources, along with educational materials related to the food system. Just last week, we received our second annual 2021 version and have been distributing it to Source Magazine stands and local businesses throughout the community. The 2021 version is a bit bigger with over 100 listings and includes a map of restaurants, retail stores, and community resources, and our new locally grown bingo game. So our first ever locally grown bingo game is a way for residents and visitors to experience the flavors of our food shed firsthand. Cards are located within the printed locally grown guide or can be downloaded from our website, sunvalleyinstitute.org/localfoodalliance/bingo. We'll drop the link in the chat and we'll also include it in a follow-up email along with slides and a recording of this webinar. Bingo experiences include grabbing a lunch at NourishMe, visiting Itty Bitty Farms in Carey, ordering online from Cafe Della Provisions, along with visiting our local farmers markets, a 5B resilience garden, or a You Pick farm, trying a new vegetable, sipping a local beer or craft soda, attending a local food event, and many more. Completed bingo cards can be shared with us via email or by tagging us on Instagram for a chance to win a prize. Without further ado, I'd like to pass the mic over to our retail store operators for an introduction to share a bit about themselves and their businesses, their offerings, and why they're committed to sourcing local. We'll go in alphabetical order based on store name. So let's start with Liza Green of Cafe Della Provisions in Hailey.
Hi there. Thanks for having me today. Super excited to be a part of this with both Emily and Julie. Awesome group here. So I started Cafe Della in Hailey in the summer of 2019 with my business partner, Ashley Roop, who is our chef. And when we first were working on our business plan, we wrote a vision to be a cafe, bakery, and market. And the way that we really described kind of that vision was to be a place that provides fresh, nourishing, high quality foods to our customers, to be a place that was accessible to everyone for kind of life's everyday pleasures. And so when we opened, we shook out there in the first couple months, but ultimately we were breakfast and lunch. Did a lot of from scratch foods with a lot of local ingredients, produce. Emily and Itty Bitty is one of our awesome producers that we love working with. But so when the pandemic hit in March of last year, we'd only been open about 9 months. It actually forced us to pivot and move into that market piece of our business that we had yet to do. And so we immediately set up an online store that is still alive and well today, where customers can order on a weekly order cycle. That includes like house-made provisions, groceries, prepared dinners, a lot of local produce, local meats, eggs, flour from Hillside Grain, stuff like that. And then as we kind of moved back into a more physical business, as we started to kind of understand COVID, we set up a market in store. So I used to say that we used to be a cafe and then we were a market, and now we're trying to marry those two things and figure that out. So today we have our dining room open again, serving breakfast and lunch. We still have our market, and we also have our online store. Just as it relates to this specific webinar, we do use a ton of local products and local ingredients in all of our foods, and sell a lot of local products. Something that's super important to our business model, which I'm sure we'll get into more later. Thank you.
Thanks for that overview, Liza. I was so impressed by the way you all pivoted during COVID, and now to see it back open for dining in the restaurant is exciting as well. So next, let's hear from, yeah, absolutely. Next, let's hear from Emily Knowles of Itty Bitty Farms in Carey.
Hey everybody, I'm glad to be here today as well. My name is Emily Knowles, and my husband Landon Knowles and myself, as well as our 5 children, run Itty Bitty Farms in Carey. The retail aspect of our farm opened March 2020. We weren't really planning on, the whole 2020 thing, but after a lot of, construction and stuff, our store just happened to open right before lockdown. So it kind of was fortuitous for us to be able to be in operation when that happened. We had started farming and doing a couple things a few years before that. Actually, the first thing that we did was start the Carey Farmers Market before we even started farming. That was kind of our jumpstart into the local food scene. We felt Carey needed a farmer's market, and we did that first and said, you know what this farmer's market needs is a farm. Let's do that next. So then the retail store, like I said, in 2020 opened again, just to fill a need, because we had the building space that we were expecting to use as just kind of a pack and prep area for our own farm purposes. But Carey didn't have any grocery options. There is no grocery store in Carey. There's one gas station, and that's where people were sometimes buying their groceries from. So we decided that, some basics, milk, eggs, cheese, those kinds of things would be beneficial for the community. But we got such a huge response, plus the addition of the struggles and the containment that COVID was kind of implementing on people. And so that store, which was supposed to just kind of be a few basics, is kind of exploded into offering and carrying a lot of things that we originally weren't planning on. But hey, just like Liza said, we kind of rolled with the punches as far as that goes. So Itty Bitty Farms is primarily a farm, but we have the retail space that we operate out of, selling as many local things as we can, because the nature of it started as kind of a just filling a need for the community. We did start with a lot of traditional grocery items, but as these past 2 years have gone by, year and a half has gone by, we are integrating more and more of the local things. All of the eggs are now local eggs. Carey can't buy anything but local eggs now because that's what we carry. And we are slowly introducing more and more local products and phasing out some of our more traditional grocery products, just because, there are more options for people to travel outside of town and shop, but we're just trying to really influence people's shopping preferences as well. And that's pretty much our overview.
Great. Thank you, Emily. It's nice to hear more about the way that you've also adapted to the COVID needs and the needs of your community. And I know you're doing a great service there for those people in Carey and us people who are in South Bellevue Triangle area who come over to grocery shop too. So last but certainly not least, let's hear from Julie Johnson of NourishMe in Ketchum. And Julie, you will have to unmute. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Julie Johnson. Thanks for pulling this all together, Amy, and you ladies who are doing what you're doing. I know the struggle of small retail here. I'm a nutritional therapist, and I opened up NourishMe 11 years ago, June 2010. I've always was into organic gardening and herbal supplementation, worked in a health food store in town pre to this. In those days, these kinds of stores, they sold things like muscle milk, protein powders, dense, hard to digest plant-based protein bars. And over the years of working in a health food store where no real food was being sold, I had the need and the desire to put together the food piece and the supplement piece. So with a kitchen as a centerpiece, and the true heart and soul of NourishMe is probably our kitchen. But what defines NourishMe is my nutritional practice. So we could get all the nutrition we need from our diet alone if our plants, grasses, and our animals were being raised in nutrient-dense soil. For instance, we would need to eat in today's world 5 oranges to equal the nutritional value of an orange in 1971. That's how depleted our soil has become. So as a nutritional therapist, I use food and food-based foundational supplements to help people heal. Hence, my business has landed on food partnerships, which is where most everybody else I work with comes into play. Our body's innate healing and vibrancy, it starts with nutrient-dense, rich foods. We want our farming partners using regenerative practices because nature needs nurturing as well. And this is where the rubber meets the road for me, this point of soil health. So over 30 million Americans are deficient in B6, D3, vitamin C, magnesium. Magnesium, like that, can ignite 400 other enzymatic functions in the body. And it's because of these deficiencies I use food-based foundational supplements. At the same time, I encourage new gardeners, farmers, and ranchers to tend and mend their soil and sell these products with us. So at NourishMe, we also further the nutritional value of our foods through fermentation, sauerkraut, beet kvass, to name 2 examples, and that's turning a local food product into a superfood. So that's what NourishMe does.
Thank you for that overview, Julie. I don't know if we were expecting a little deep dive into the nutritional aspect of things, but I appreciate you bringing that into our conversation because it's definitely important. And I know for a lot of us, it's one of the reasons we're so supportive of our local farmers and ranchers because it brings nutrient dense food to our community. So thank you for that.
Oh.
Okay, so now I will mute Julie and go to the next slide. So it's really great to get to know our local retail store operators and learn more about why they're committed to selling local food. But I just wanted to take a moment and talk about the benefits of these kinds of retail stores. So the benefits to both producers and consumers are offering year-round access to local food items, providing a one-stop shop for grocery needs, and they also can utilize local items and their value-added products, providing tasty, nourishing meals and snacks for our plates or beverages to sip on as well, as we heard with kombucha and beet kvass that Julie's creating. So retailers also uplift local farmers and ranchers by telling their stories, assisting with marketing, and showcasing their delicious products. This really helps the farmers do the necessary work of growing food while not spending too much of their time off-farm marketing and selling their products. Now we're going to get into the details of each retail location. So Cafe Della is located at 103 South Main Street in Hailey and offers a full online store for ordering both their prepared foods and grocery items. They have ready-to-go meals and take and bake options available both online and in their physical storefront. For fresh grocery items, they have Harmony Hen's eggs, Cloverleaf glass bottle dairy products, seasonal produce from Itty Bitty Farms, Lookout Farms, and Water Wheel Gardens. They sell the full line of Hillside grain flours while also using them in their delicious baked goods. In their freezer section, they carry Wood River Ranch beef and Fairweather fish products. For beverages, they offer Road Bar mixers and Cedar Draw ciders. And new this spring, you can find Wild Flora Farm flower bouquets at Cafe Della. Liza, go ahead and jump in. Tell us what I missed or tell us about some of the yummy dishes you're offering this week.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, just a quick thoughts on additional things. We do use 5 Beehives honey as a sweetener in a great deal of our products, and we also sell their glass jar honeys. Our coffee, while not local to the Wood River Valley, is an Idaho brand from Post Falls up north called Doma that does an exceptional job, and we're super proud of at least having an Idaho brand. Just kind of a couple quick call outs of maybe some things on our menu that we really love that feature local food products would be our quiche, super popular. We try to have fresh seasonal vegetables in that. We make it with Harmony Hymns eggs and hillside grain flour. Similarly, our egg sandwich, also Harmony Hymns eggs, house-made bread from Hillside. And then we do have Falls brand bacon. And then another recent menu ad that's been super popular is our smoked trout sandwich, and that's with Two Rivers smoked trout, itty bitty greens. Thank you, Emily. And our house-made bread. So yeah, we try to have as much local ingredients, as many local ingredients as we can incorporate it. And loving the flower bouquets from Wild Flora. That's been really cool.
Very cool. I love your food. So glad to hear a little bit more about what's fresh and available for us to dine on this week and in future weeks to come. So next we'll go over to Itty Bitty Farm details. So Itty Bitty Farms operates a retail storefront and production farm on Main Street in Carey, Idaho. If you haven't been yet, it's a really beautiful drive. And right now the fields are lush and green and there's blooming flowers up and over Queen's Crown's Pass. So I highly recommend getting over there if you have not yet visited. Not only do they sell their own freshly grown produce, but they offer value-added products like salsa, pickled eggs, and spice mixes. In addition, they carry Mountain Valley Creamery sheep cheeses, buck wild beef, farm fresh eggs, baked goods and crafts from local artisans, and they currently have lots of plant starts available to help fill your garden beds. Emily, anything you'd like to add or share more information about?
I don't know. I think that pretty much covered it. That was a great overview of what we do.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
And next we will talk about the details of NourishMe. NourishMe is located at 151 Main Street in Ketchum. They opened in 2010, like Julie said, to provide our community with a health food store focused on locally grown goods. They have a full assortment of grocery items, a counter service cafe, a supplement section, and host the Water Wheel Gardens mini farmers markets on Tuesday afternoons all year round. I almost ran out of space on this product list, so I hope I captured all the amazing items that NourishMe carries. They have a full assortment of locally raised meat and dairy products, including raw milk from Old Alamo Creamery, cheeses from Peekaboo Desert and Ballard Cheese, pasture-raised meat products from Agrarian Harvest, Malheur River meats, Lava Lake lamb, and many more. Their case is packed full with seasonal local produce, including fresh greens and mushrooms and root veggies. They offer local raw honey from Deer Creek Berry Farm, 5 Beehives, and Willow Creek Nursery. They also brew their own kombucha and ferment their own kraut in-house and have a deli case with salads, hummuses, soups, sandwiches, and baked goods. Julie, what other products do you want to mention or tell us what's fresh right now in the store?
What's fresh? Well, Water Wheel was just here yesterday and they just dropped off, or they pack our shelves with a lot of the things that they have. So everybody has spinach right now and arugula. We do sprouts with itty bitty and squash blossom. And I think the thing to know is that we have super good grilled sandwiches. We use the sprouts from our local vendors on the sandwiches. We use some cheese from Ballard Cheese on there. We have hanger bread. We make frittatas every morning, and those are local eggs and whatever vegetables we throw in there. So the Kale Salads, that's going to be starting to come up from the Buell area for the summers. So there's a lot, but it's always changing, but it's always here somehow.
Great, thank you. So now that we've learned all about these local food retailers, we're almost ready to jump into the Q&A session. First, I'll invite our panelists to add their contact info, website, social media handles, or phone numbers into the chat box. So go ahead and do that now if you have a moment. It's also on this slide here, and we'll share this with everyone who has registered for the webinar. I do want to just mention that if you take a moment and fill out this brief survey, let us know how we did. You can scan the QR code, or Mike will drop the link in the chat too. So I think I see Liza put her contact info in. I'll give everyone just a moment or two to put contact info in there. I also just wanted to plug a couple other retail locations. While they're not here today, I think it's nice to highlight Cray's Market and Garden that offers local food delivery. Adkinson's Market does a great job of sourcing local. And then some of our other restaurants or delis offer some takeout foods using local food like CK's, Raspberries, Powerhouse. So there's lots of ways to source local and enjoy the flavors of our community. So I think we are now ready to jump into Q&A. So I will stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other. We do invite you all to, or if you want to, you can come off of video or on video and join the conversation. You're welcome to put any questions in the chat box. And if we don't have any questions yet, I've prepared some just in case our audience is a little quiet today. So let's see if we've got anything going yet in the chat. Not seeing anything yet. So I will start with a question. I'll just dive into the good questions, right? So I think I'm really interested in knowing, like, if you could magically wave a wand and make any product available from a local farmer, what would it be? Whether it's produce, maybe citrus, maybe it's pineapple, maybe it's coffee. Let's start. And Julie's unmuted, so I'll go to her first. If you could wave a magic wand, what product would you have
really
available?
Oh.
You are really unmuted, yes.
Why not? No. I would like to see more local cheesemakers, more artisan kind of product like that. I bet Liza would too in her shop. We want to see consistency with our greenhouses. So we have more winter than we have summer. So what we want to see is if we can manage to communicate with one another on the greenhouses, like, okay, who's planting when and what? These are the places we know we're serving. For sure, Ketchum needs these farmers, you know, we definitely have the population up here that wants to buy it. So it behooves everyone to grasp that piece and plan so we could get spinach more evenly, lettuce more evenly, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay, so Julie says cheese and year-round, especially winter, fresh greens. I like that. Let's go to Liza next. Liza, what if you could wave a magic wand, what would you be able to sell from our regional farmers and producers?
If I had to say one ingredient, just knowing how much we actually rely on this ingredient across everything, it would probably just be lemons, because it's hard to beat a fresh lemon. But that's a dream world. You know, maybe more realistically, kind of similar to what Julie's saying. You know, we know that our farmers are very challenged to be doing what they're doing in the high desert, and we are super grateful that we can get what we can get. It's incredible. You know, but I will say, like, there's nothing more exciting to us. Back in January, when Emily and Landon had their greens available, we had been using, you know, regional and California greens, and we just were beyond thrilled that our salads switched to local salads. And so, you know, in my dream world, it would be everything, all the seasons. So, Emily, I'm just kidding.
Not too big of an ask, right?
Yeah, no, you guys, I'm so grateful for having access to what we have access to.
I appreciate that. And I'll just, before I jump to Emily, I'll just plug really quickly that one of our programs, the Impact Idaho Fund, was able to recently provide some financial support with some support by Blaine County Land, Water, and Wildlife Program to Emily and Landon to help extend their season. So hopefully we'll start seeing greens available for longer times. But now I'll let Emily jump in and share, if you could have anything from a local producer, whether it's yourself or someone else, what would that be?
It's funny that she mentioned lemons, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. It's like, we do use a lot of citrus in our locally, or in our value-added products. But one thing that we are kind of trying to work on, but we would love to actually have from local producers, is ice cream. We sell, dozens of containers of ice cream just because that's what Carey kind of wants, somewhere they can go pick up ice cream. And if we could get some really high quality locally produced dairy products such as ice cream and yogurt, maybe some of those things, that would be awesome.
All right. So artisanal dairy products and more year-round greens. I'm on board with both of those. I think that's great. All right. We do have a question coming in from the chat from Nina. What has been your biggest challenges regarding growth or expansion? So again, Julie is unmuted. So we'll start with Julie. So go ahead, Julie, and let us know what's your biggest challenge with growth or expansion.
Well, I think I touched on that with our many different, we've got, since we started 15 years ago, there's been more and more people coming to grow. And you remember the Idaho's Bounty thing, it kind of went defunct, but the idea of that was to be connected with everybody, understand who needed what, and when. And so if our greenhouses, so it's season extension, right? That's our biggest thing. My job at NourishMe, our mission is partly to educate the customer, whether it's one at a time or not. And so we get them coming back, and then we need a place for the farmers to sell. So we have those two platforms to get the product consistent, at least know what day it's coming, if we could even do that, helps a lot. It's just retail, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Emily, do you want to jump in and say what are some of your biggest challenges with growth or expansion?
Something that we have, like personally, is just time, the amount of effort that it takes, or has been taking us to kind of get as far as we have gotten so far, has just been monumental. And it's been a learning process for us, but that is probably one of the hugest challenges, is that it's so labor intensive and so time consuming, and all of these things that it's not like we weren't expecting it to be hard, but there's always some unexpected challenge coming up. I think when you have such a, unexpected line of work, and that's luckily something that we'll be able to manage better coming up soon, because we are getting some more full-time help, and in that the farm is extending a generation back, where my parents are joining us for farming endeavor as well. So hopefully we'll have lots more hands-on and be able to, but that's definitely been the challenge for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And Liza, what about you? What are your biggest challenges so far?
It's a great question. I think there are two main buckets or themes that I would call out. The first is, we are a tiny business. I don't do the volume that Julie does, I would assume. And so there are some local farmers that I completely understand kind of require more advanced planning, or maybe require larger orders and are further along in their business. And we maybe have struggled to work with them because we're just kind of teeny tiny. And so I think one of the reasons we found that we work so closely with both Itty Bitty and Lookout is because we all kind of started at the same time. And so we're all sort of growing together. And I think we're slowly starting to bring more producers into our wheelhouse. But I think us being so tiny and not being able to forecast demand to a farmer, I understand that it's hard for them to commit to us. So that's a big bucket, but I think we've found some great partners and are really moving in the right direction with that. And then the second piece, I will 100% echo Emily right now as it relates to labor. So it's the things that we do, you know, everyone says it's a labor of love, and it is a labor of love. I mean, the amount of effort and time and energy that goes into making every single thing that comes out of our kitchen is huge. And now that we are both a cafe and a market, you know, and we make goods from scratch every single day, it's incredibly challenging to figure out how to provide to our customers in a way that we are really proud of with the labor that we have. We have an excellent team, and I'm really grateful for that. But just still trying to figure out how to grow that team as we grow our business.
Thanks for sharing both of those points. I think, you know, the labor is definitely problematic. It probably was before COVID, and I think it's probably only gotten worse now. And it's really interesting to hear you speak to that volume requirement to work with local farmers, because you're right, the farmers need reliable, consistent ordering, but you also, as you grow, you want to be able to source from local farmers. So finding that balance is really interesting to think about. So thanks for sharing those. I don't yet have any other questions in the chat, but everyone on, please feel free. So I'm going to go to another question that I've thought about a little bit. What is your favorite meal or recipe using the local ingredients you carry in your store? And no one's unmuted yet, so I think let's start with Emily on that.
So my favorite, repeat the question.
Yeah, just share with us like your favorite meal or recipe or something that you like to eat using ingredients from your farm or your store.
One of our most popular and probably my favorite value added item is our fresh salsa. We are super excited. We've just been doing it with whatever tomatoes we can find, but in a couple of weeks, month, our tomatoes are going to be producing, and then it's going to just be like, So, but that's definitely something where, even though it's not always something we produce, we definitely are using our own cilantro, our own, you know, jalapenos will be coming into seasons, you know, later this summer. And just even the stuff that I'm buying for resale in our store, it's being able to use the products that otherwise would go to waste. Traditional grocery stores have so much produce waste. Like we have almost zero, because every time I'm like, we're just not quite selling an entire case of tomatoes this week. I guess we have to find a new tomato recipe. And then we make more stuff. That's why we've been expanding more of our value added products just in step with what do we need to use up more of. And then it's going like that. But that's definitely my favorite, the fresh salsa.
Thanks for sharing both your favorite salsa and also a little bit more about how you utilize that food, the potential food waste, into value added products, because that's a really important part of being a smaller retail store that has the ability to do the value added products. And I'm really encouraged by that. Let's jump over to Liza. Liza, what's your favorite meal or dish or recipe that you can use local products on?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned a couple of our things that I love. One of the things that I go back to day after day, we've had on our menu since we opened, we call it Della greens, and it's just our house salad. Right now it has greens from Lookout and Itty Bitty. We also at times use radishes from Water Wheel. And it has our house-made dressing and toasted nuts and seeds. And then you can add a Harmony Hen soft-boiled egg, or quinoa, which is not local, but it's really just a wonderful, nourishing, fresh, filling salad that works really well for lunch or to take home for dinner with some of our other items. So I love that one. Another one that I try not to eat too much, but our trout dip is really incredible. So that's good stuff, and we sell that up at Ketchum Kitchens too. And then just not value added, but Water Wheel I haven't really mentioned. Their apples are the best, and I am eating them year round, and we have them available in our market year round. And as Julie said, you know, right now we have their spinach and stuff like that. So they do an awesome job, and we love having access to their stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those with us, Liza. Julie, you're going to have to unmute and then tell us what your favorite meal recipe dish using local products.
Yeah, oh, so many. We love it when food walks through the back door. So we sell it out, for customers to buy. And if things are looking a little funky, it gets thrown into a soup, or something like that. I think one of the popular things at NourishMe are the kale salads that come in. We're using the local kale. It is using hemp seed in the dressing, so that's not so local. We do all the egg dishes and that kind of thing. My personal favorite food happens to be sausage and potato. We have the best meat ever in Idaho, and I'm a huge meat eater, so it fits into my plan great. We have long winters here, and we ski hard, and we climb hard, and we need good protein and fat. So there you have it from a nutritionist. My very favorite thing is I make bone broth from our local bones. Chicken broth, I get chicken feet and backs from our local people. And I try to keep that out to sell 12 months out of the year. So we also try to, so I'm making a bone broth, and Carissa's making portobello mushroom stuffed, but she's throwing out the inside. Boom, that goes into the second bake of the broth. Oh, and there's some leek ends. Oh, that goes in there too. And there's a carrot, so yeah, not a whole lot goes to waste.
It's great to hear. Thank you for sharing those. I'm really hungry now, which is always the good and bad thing about doing a lunch hour webinar. It's like, I'm always really hungry when I wrap these up. So I think I'm going to have to make a little trip up and grab some food from people. And I do. Callie Raspberry is on the call. Hi, Callie. Thanks for joining us. She's adding some great insights into the chat. And she says she would love to get more chicken and more local carrots year round. So I think probably everyone on this call can probably agree with those statements as well. So thank you for adding those, Callie. We appreciate your work at Raspberries, and thanks for being on the call today. So you all kind of spoke to one of my other questions about value-added products. So I think I'm going to skip that one and ask you, what's one thing you learned working with our local regional farmers, ranchers, and food artisans? And Julie, you're unmuted, so we'll start with you this time.
Well, I learned more about chickens than I ever thought I needed to know. Oh my God, if the fox isn't in the hen house, it's the moose, or it's the neighbor, or it's, anyway, I don't really have a definitive answer to that. I've learned a lot over the years, and it's been entertaining and informative, and I love these guys and women that come in the back door.
Okay, appreciate that. Liza, let's jump to you. What's one thing you've learned, or a handful of things if you want to, that you've learned from working with the regional farmers, ranchers, and food artisans?
Yeah, I don't think it is one thing. It's interesting. Actually, my father growing up was a conventional farmer. So cotton, soybeans, potatoes, bunch of other stuff in South Georgia. But I didn't necessarily grow up really subscribing to, because he did that all day, we definitely didn't have a garden at our house or anything. So, there wasn't a lot of local food in my life. And I would actually say it wasn't until I first moved here in 2008 and started volunteering pretty significantly with Idaho's Bounty at the time that I really came to appreciate local food. And I think for me over the years, what I have learned is that what these men and women do is incredible. And it's really an admirable feat to be farming here and producing what they do produce here. And we're so lucky to have it. Before I moved here, I lived in California for 3 months, and California, there's an abundance of everything. But when I moved here, I realized kind of the nuances and the challenges that Emily and everyone else experienced. And it just made me appreciate and value every single local food that I have access to. And that definitely continues today and is super important to me.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot, Liza. Emily, what about you? What's something you've learned either from your, I mean, you've shared a little bit about your own experience, but share with us something that you've learned that maybe was unexpected in your new retail store location.
Something, this is kind of specific, but something that I just kind of have been thinking about and learned recently was a lot of times, like the other producers or farmers or people that we've been working with as part of our retail operation, they just need, they need a lot of support and opportunity to get their products out there. We're talking with a young lady here in Carey who raises sheep, and we're working with her to get her local sheep in our to sell in our store. And just the level of advocacy that sometimes we don't realize that these farmers really need. They need somebody to kind of be on their side and give them the opportunity and the space to do what they do best, where a lot of times I just feel like even just our small scale, I think she has like 20 sheep, and I don't know how sheep farming works, but just she needs the space and the opportunity to be able to provide it to Carey. So we've invited her to come out, like come sit at the farmer's market and sell, or sell shares, or sell, you know, halves. And like, there's a lot of ways that you can reach more customers, grow your business. And I think a lot of times local farmers, ranchers, producers sometimes might struggle with figuring out just how do I get my products? How do I sell more? What are different avenues to sell that they might not realize that these are options, you know? And so that's just something recently, but I think that's something I've learned, like we can really do more to help everybody find better ways to get local food into the community more.
Absolutely. So you really set me up nicely for my next question, which is any words of advice for farmers, ranchers, or food artisans who want to sell through your establishment? We'll go to Emily first, because maybe there's just like a couple more little snippets that you could add on to what you just said.
If anybody wants to sell anything at Itty Bitty Farm Store, just bring it. Bring it, literally bring it to me, and I will pay you for it, and then you can leave, and then bring me more next week.
That's an awesome invitation.
You could call me too, whatever, call me, text me, but like we are always looking for more local product. We're willing to take a chance on almost anything at least once. So please reach out to us. We are more than happy to help people find a place that they can get their food out there.
Awesome. Thank you. Liza, what about you? Any words of advice or ways that people can sell their product through your establishment?
Emily said it well. Yeah, just come in, say hi, introduce yourself, you know, bring us your products so that we can try it. And we are always happy to put things out there and see if they sell. So we're all about getting, you know, a significant selection that will help to meet our customers' needs. And so always open to chat with people.
Awesome. Thank you. And Julie, what about you? And you're going to have to unmute because I did mute you.
Yeah, so before you walk into NourishMe, have a plan. The plan is this. You need to sell in the store. You need to have some kind of packaging, and it needs to have your name and a contact information. It could be just a P.O. box. You need to have an idea of how much it's worth, because I have to mark it up, traditional marking up for groceries 30%. Okay, so what I teach a lot of farmers, a lot of stuff like this, and we go around in circles for a while. Yeah, you're right. A lot of them don't know who to talk to and how to get the information out. I think that's something Amy and Lexi can work on, a contact point, what to do. You think you've got something, you know, how do you want to get that out to the public? Here, go here. So we want them to think about what this thing is worth. How long is it going to stay good on the shelf? How often can they deliver? I mean, I'm going to have a list of questions for them. And you don't, yeah, it's like candy when this stuff walks in the back door for us. We're super excited and all of that. And then people forget, like, hey, do you have an invoice? So I think some sort of a centralized thing so like Emily, if somebody comes to you from Carey, and I bet there's a lot of great things being grown down there, a lot of good animal, they don't know they're busy doing what they're doing, as they should be doing what they're doing. But if you could go, here's the site, here's the phone number, here's the contact person, they're going to help you. It's almost like going to the bank to get a loan. Here's your checklist. Start checking it off and get prepared. I think we can do it. I think we can get it together.
Absolutely. And thanks for mentioning us. I'm always happy to help out with farmers or ranchers or food artisans who are just getting into the market or transitioning to a different type of market. Maybe they sell commodity now and they want to transition into selling direct to consumers or at our small retail stores. And my work with Local Food Alliance, we absolutely are open to helping those producers and entrepreneurs get into the place where they feel comfortable going into the store. They feel prepared to market their stuff into restaurants. We've gone with, like, Harmony Hens is a great example. When Spencer first came on with eggs, I went with him to Cafe Della, to NourishMe. I introduced him to the chefs and restaurateurs and business owners to get him in the door. I'm not going to sell it for you, but I can help you make those connections. And that's definitely the work that we love to do at Local Food Alliance. So anyone can always come to us before you go to a retail store if you want a little extra hand holding getting through that process, because we can definitely help you with that. So as we wrap up, I think my next question, it's going to be kind of obvious, but I'll leave it to you all to expand on it a little bit. What can the audience here on this call, or those tuning in after the fact, how can they support you as a local retail establishment? Julie, you're unmuted, so we'll start with you.
Come on in. Check us out. We'll have a good time. It's always a party at lunchtime at NourishMe. So.
All right. Thank you. I know, kind of an obvious question, but I have to ask it anyways. Liza, you're up next. How can people support you?
Yeah, I mean, show up, right? We've had some incredible support that has helped us get through our first 2 years. It's been really crazy. One of the things I'm seeing in the last week or so is, I think, as people are really excited to feel more comfortable eating in restaurants, that actually the market piece of my business has really gone down. And that's something, for me, I would like to see all of those prongs of my business, the online store and the market and the cafe, exist together. And we are working hard to try to figure out how to do that as efficiently, as effectively as possible. But on that note, another thing that people can help with, I am always open to feedback. Good, bad, ugly, whatever. I ask for it a lot. If I don't ask for it, I'm still really happy to hear it, because at the end of the day, my job is to serve all of you and everyone in this community. And if we're not doing that in a way that works for all of you, then we're not doing the right thing. So for me, communication and feedback is super valuable.
That is really great insights. I appreciate that, Liza. And what about you, Emily? Any ways that you want to be supported?
I also really like the feedback, the thought about feedback. Please give me some feedback. But other than that, support your local farmers markets. Come down and see us in Carey. If you're ever driving past, stop in. We like to carry our products like more of a wholesale pricing within the store. So if people want to come and grab some stuff from us, like, that would be great. But also support the local restaurants and the local retailers that also carry local products, either from us or from other local producers. It's all good.
I really appreciate, like, the camaraderie within our local food system. Like, you all are technically all competitors, but you're here uplifting each other and telling each other to support each other, which is really powerful. I really appreciate that. So I think I'll just give okay, feedback for Emily. Your cinnamon rolls at Craze this weekend were incredible. That's
the
awesome.
Team loved them. Thank you, Emily.
Delicious. I will now just pass it over to each of our panelists to just share any last thoughts, Any last plugs you want to make, any little snippets that you think are worthy of sharing, or things you want to get off your chest. It can be any form you want. It can be short and sweet. It can be a story, however you'd like to wrap up and say goodbye to our audience today. So again, Julie's unmuted, so we'll start with her first.
I don't have any pearls of wisdom here, other than still at the education part between customer, consumer, farmer. Why is it so important to keep our soil and to regenerate our soil? And that was always my beginning mission, and I suspect it'll be until I die, about just whatever we can do to focus on that. I think our survival depends on it. Not in a bad way, but and also, who doesn't like to eat? Who doesn't like to eat well? So you're putting the two things together. Anyway, I think this is a fabulous group of people, and I'm very excited about new folks that are coming and joining you, Amy. And you out there getting more farmers, and I'm very encouraged. And so I'm just going to ride with that.
Thanks, Julie. I appreciate everything you've done for our community over the years and continue to do for us all. So thank you. Now let's pass it over to Liza. Liza, any last little words of wisdom, stories you want to share?
Well, just real quick, thank you, Amy, for organizing this, and thank you everyone for being here. One of the things I realize is we all get into our day-to-day so much that we don't, as Emily said, it's hard to find the time to do things, right? And so to kind of peek our heads up and check in with the rest of the community, for me, is always really inspiring and super important. So I appreciate the forum. And it just kind of is getting my brain spinning of, are there more ways for us to, kind of keep this conversation going, and pieces of this conversation, which I know, Amy, you're always hard at work on. And then just one little kind of plug for something that was mentioned in the sidebar, but we are a pickup point for Lookout Farm for their CSA. They do an awesome job. They have half shares and whole shares, and they're still accepting shares. And we will have our first pickup with them tomorrow. Super excited about that. We love that. But they have options throughout the valley and delivery and stuff. So if you're still looking for a CSA, Emily is also doing some cool stuff on there from Itty, but Lookout is an option as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Liza. Both your plug for Lookout CSA pickup location and the invitation to continue these conversations. I love having these conversations with you all. So whether it's online or offline, in person or on the phone, I'm always happy to continue chatting and hopefully building a more robust local food system. So now we'll pass it to Emily, and I think that's Micah with her, and the whole gang is with her.
My party's been crashed. Okay, I made it. Just closing thoughts. It's so great that we have such a wonderful food community that we can all really work together. I mean, over at Itty Bitty Farms, we're like really happy to be able to work with everyone. Other farms, let's just continue this great movement towards local food and making that more the norm than it is in the world right now. And just, that's hi from all the itty bitties.
That's not Kerrigan.
Nope. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. And I'm just going to share my screen one last time to give you the link to our survey. Please let us know how we did today. Your feedback really does matter, and it will help us make sure we're providing you all with the information and resources you need to be part of our local food system. And I know Mike has dropped some links into the chat, so please go ahead and click through those. And if you're here today, you're automatically registered for the last webinar in our series, all about the farmers market, happening on June 30th. We hope to see you there, and please share this webinar series with your friends or family who are interested in learning more about our local food community. All of our previous webinars have been posted on YouTube and are linked on our website. And again, just a big thank you to our panelists for joining us today. And as always, we're grateful for each of you tuning in via Zoom or those watching after the fact. So I think we are ready to wrap up, and so nice to see all the smiling faces of our local food community. So thank you all so much for being here. And with that, I will stop sharing. We will stop recording, and we will all say